Proudly presented by Pentz Homes and part of the Hitting the Hardwood podcast network. This is Lynx Happy Hour. Yo, hello, and welcome to another episode of Lynx Happy Hour. I'm Terry Horstman. I host the show, and thank you so much for tuning in to Lynx Happy Hour, the podcast for Lynx basketball is always on special. On today's episode, I share a not a tearful farewell, but more of a see you later with the Star Tribune's Shelby Swanson, who is heading to Raleigh, North Carolina, as we speak, to begin her new journey as the North Carolina Tar Heels beat writer at the Raleigh News and Observer. But Shelby has done a great job on the women's sports beat in the Twin Cities all summer long. We talk about some of her favorite moments for her first time up here in the Midwest. Sort of a little bit of a top 5, top 10 list, if you will, and then get into some deep Lynx talk. Lana Smith for DPOI, how just amazing the Dejanay Carrington continues to work out. And, of course, plenty of stud buds talk, as well as Courtney Williams and Natisha Heidemann graced the cover of Slam magazine, the only Minnesota Twins I recognize from this point henceforth. So yeah, lots to get into, lots to talk about. It's a very exciting week here in Lynx basketball. Shelby and I talked for almost an hour, so I am going to shut up here, and we are just going to get right to that interview and all the Lynx talkers for this weekend, where the Lynx face the New York Liberty at Target Center on Saturday, followed by another matchup with the New York Liberty over back in old New York on Tuesday, August 19th. Here's that great conversation with Shelby. Thank you once again for tuning in. This is the August 15th episode of Lynx Happy Hour. What up? This episode of Lynx Happy Hour is brought to you by Pentz Homes. The team at Pentz Homes has experience working with first-time home buyers, folks selling their first home and buying their next place, to people looking to downsize. With the best tools, technology, and trusted vendors to help with any home project, Pentz Homes is a top choice for buyers and sellers. For more info and to set up a time to meet with Nate and the team to talk about your home buying or selling needs, visit pentzhomes.com. That is Pentz, PentzHomes.com. It is a bittersweet day here on Lynx Happy Hour, and just in the Twin Cities in general. Sweet because the incomparable and very talented Shelby Swanson is returning to the show and joining me now.
Hey.
But it's bitter because it is your last day in Minnesota, Shelby, as you move on to the next chapter in your life back in your home state of North Carolina. Raleigh News and Observer.
That's
Correct?
right. That's
I
right.
got it right this time.
There you go.
Very, very well deserved. We can't wait to follow your work and the rest of your career. But at the same time, we are very sad to see you go. So thank you for taking some time with me on this, your last full day in Minnesota.
Of course, there's nothing on the schedule for me this Thursday, my last day as an intern in terms of Lynx coverage, but we had to sneak it in there somehow.
Of
So
course.
love to just come on the pod and chop it up. Really excited. And yeah, it's a bittersweet time for me too. I'm very excited to be returning home to the Raleigh News and Observer and covering UNC, and there's Belichick and UNC hoops, and
A
the
couple
women's,
big menu items there.
a
Yeah.
couple big men, and also some more coverage of women's hoops.
Of
The Tar
course.
Heel women's team with Courtney Banghart is reeling in some really impressive recruits. So it's an exciting time, but at the same time, this what's looking like a finals run for the Lynx. I'm kind of stepping away, and I'll definitely be getting some FOMO. So I know actually I'll go ahead and plug this that I think I might be hopping on Andrew's post game pod on Saturday from
There
the
you go.
car en route to North Carolina to break down the the Liberty Lynx game. So I'm not quite done. I might still be on the
But
Twitters, but yeah,
well,
anyways,
this is how Minnesota works. Like once you're here, we keep you forever, even if it's not
that's beautiful.
in your regards to your physical location. So yeah,
Still there mentally.
you will be on Lynx pods for a long time. And I don't
Need
know.
it.
I think the Rally News and Observer should have boots on the ground coverage of this year's WNBA finals.
Might
So
have to. Might have to.
we'll
I'll find a local angle.
we'll
Find
pitch
something.
that. We'll pitch that. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Well, I mean, it also is, fortuitous today because there's been some pretty, there's always really fun Lynx news. But today is Stud Bud Slam cover day. It's
Iconic.
back to back slam covers for the Minnesota Lynx. National media finally giving the team the coverage it deserves. Slam's been on the Lynx train for a while, so I don't want to it sound like I'm dragging Slam at all. But is this the greatest cover in Slam history, Shelby? We were just looking over. I think you've already ordered like three prints of it to your
Okay,
wall.
chill.
Already
Okay,
ordered the
chill. Not true,
Slam
not true.
Slam
Not
shirt.
true. But I will say though, I will say I'm actually looking on the Twitter right now and I didn't realize that I'm for sure gonna get a copy of the cover, but it looks like they have all these like different
There's
t-shirts
like eight different T-shirts for it. It's not just the
in
cover shirts,
crop and heavy tees.
right?
Individual cover and duo, so you can get like a slam Courtney Williams, a slam to Tisha Hyde. Maybe you and your friend want to each get one, and you can each have one of the stud buds on your shirts. I will say though that me and Terry here did pull the trigger pretty quick in terms of buying the Everyone Watches Stud Buds shirts. We just got those
Yep.
in the mail. Unfortunately, Terry hopped on the pod and was wearing his. I did not get the memo. I know this is an audio only podcast. I'm just painting the picture
you
that
you can
um
feel the aura of
you
the
can you
shirts.
can feel the aura,
Yeah.
but no, for real. I mean, it's really fun. It's really cool. I think folks have kind of been um waiting on this a little bit. I know that Slam barely teased it, but I think since, having the second at this point, right, fee cover recently, and then with everything Stud Buds kind of taking off around All-Star weekends, it was only a matter of time, honestly, and I think it's really cool, really exciting. Again, great from you just look at like a national media standpoint in terms of coverage of the Lynx. And yeah, I mean Slam just in the basketball community means so much. I'm hesitant to say that this is the greatest Slam cover ever. I will say my personal favorite is probably the classic Allen Iverson
Right.
Slam cover. But it's pretty doggone cool. I love the pink accents.
Yep.
They got the shades on. And it's a really fun. I haven't had the chance to fully read it, but all the portraiture that they have in the online piece, really cool, really fun too. So just love the visual presentation of it. They got some photos of them, just dancing together. Really bright colors, it pops.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, so it's only a matter of time until we see even more Stud Buds merch and memorabilia in
In
the
the world.
stands. You
Well,
thought it couldn't get crazier, but
there's got to
oh,
be a
it's coming.
Slam cover tee day for it now, just like they
That's
did
what I'm
for the
saying.
fee cover. So I don't
Yeah.
I don't know how fast they can get shirts to you know stock and arena pro
The
shop,
Sky were
but
quick with it. Okay, one thing I will say, the
right
Chicago Sky was really quick with it. When we
with
went
that
over
2K
there that
the
week,
Angel Reese 2K
it
cover
was, I
shirt. Yeah,
swear, God, it was like same day, if not next day, and they had every single seat in that place
right.
with the Angel Reese tees. And I'm telling you, I told one of my friends, I was staying with one of my friends, Caroline, in Chicago, and she told me to grab one for her. And I
Yeah.
said, okay, let me,
Oh, our
I'll
friend Travis Singleton right away was like, "Grab me a shirt, please. I'll do anything."
Right. Me being the consummate professional that I am, I said, let me wait until I filed and I've done that because it wasn't a sellout. I'm like, there's going to be empty seats, whatever. So I think I went and did post game interviews. I ran back to my media seat to look around the arena, gone.
Right.
They were cleared.
Mm-hmm.
And I bet the resale market, I think you actually pulled up some of the numbers the other day, but
80,
the
80,
resale
80
market
bucks. 80 bucks was the mark
for
I
a
found
free
for a free
t-shirt,
t-shirt. Yep.
for a free t-shirt, I was like, dang, man, I missed out. But nah, so y'all might have to, if there's something going on, if they do a similar sort of thing in Target Center, guys, I don't even care. I will drop my full address on here. If someone can, if someone can get one and send it to me, like Social Security, whatever, bro. Like
For
I'll
sure.
maybe not that
I
far,
don't,
but
yeah, I don't know
I need
how
it.
revealing your social security number will help you. So we'll steer clear of that. But I
Yeah,
think
no,
we
no,
can,
I'm playing, I'm
if
playing.
those shirts are available, I'm sure we can get one your way.
I
Uh,
need that.
and then you just have to wear it when you interview Belichick for the first time.
Believe it. Yeah, the stud
You'll
buds
be
merch
better
on
dressed than he will
interviewing
be.
Bill
That's the
Belichick.
guarantee. Whatever
I mean,
whatever
no one
ripped
else is gonna
sweatshirt
have
he's
it for
wearing.
sure.
Yeah.
It'll be
You'll
easy.
be yeah, the Lynx representation in North Carolina.
That's
I do
beautiful.
love my favorite part of it is the headline: the Minnesota Twins, Twins with a Z, especially on the news that everyone's mad about that
Right.
the Twins ownership is not getting the hell out of here like we'd all hoped they were. And yeah, so these are the Minnesota Twins that I recognize. Court and T are replacing Minnie and Paul in the logo, and all as well.
I
Uh,
can't tell if the timing, honestly, for me is perfect or like too on the nose and almost like comically tone deaf with where the Twins are. You see what I'm saying? Because like on one hand, like I've actually gotten some reader emails that have talked about how much, well, first of all, I will say here, and again, like for whoever listens to the pod and has maybe, graciously taken the time to read any of my articles, I've gotten like quite a bit of just emails from readers and really nice things. I haven't had the chance to respond to all of them because some of them have kind of just like directed to my spam folder. And I open it up like a month later. I'm like, oh, this is a really nice email about
right,
this article from. But anyways, people have been really, really lovely in terms of just their reception of my work. And one of the things
great.
and kind of comments I've gotten a lot has been that, as the twin season has kind of taken a downward spiral, to put it lightly.
Mm-hmm.
They have tuned in more and more to the Lynx and kind of a curiosity
Good.
of I'm wondering if that's really common with a lot of Minnesota fans. Again, for someone that's been here this summer, I'm not one to really speculate on it, but anecdotally, I've gotten a few emails from folks about, yeah, man, I have not been able to watch the Twins, but I've loved getting to know the Lynx more. And
Right.
so I mean, really, if you look at like this summer and you think, you know, Twins in Minnesota, it ain't the baseball team, it's these
No,
two. So I think it kind of works. Again, obviously the timing with the Polab family not selling the Twins, a little funny, but
for
I,
sure.
I think
And
it
I don't
works.
want to make any assumptions about the listenership either. Twin is a common term of endearment to
Yes,
refer to
that's my twin. That's my
a
fault.
very close friend,
There you
hey
go.
twin, love you twin, like that kind of thing.
Yes, Courtney
Um,
uses that one a lot.
right.
So it's, yeah, I think it's awesome. With the Z too, it's in
Yeah.
pink. I mean,
Exactly. Well, and
come on.
our colleague on the beat, Andrew Dukowitz, smartly asked Cheryl yesterday at media availability what it would take for her to join the pink hair brigade, and Cheryl didn't hesitate. She said championship. So if the Lynx win it all, we might see Cheryl with maybe just a pink strand,
Oh, she's gotta do it.
or
She's gotta
full
do
pink
it.
hair at the championship parade. So you can't count your chickens before they hatch, as they say. But they're the stakes have only gotten higher. You didn't think
Yeah,
they could get higher. Now they're higher.
guys. And here's the thing though, and again, I unfortunately could not make media availability yesterday. I did have the chance though to go out to Vikings Patriots joint practice, which was really fun, but I missed it. I'm assuming that that video of her talking about oh, I'll dye my hair pink if it's a
Mm-hmm.
championship. It's probably already on Twitter, already gotten
Oh,
clipped. And I know people are bookmarking that. And you
for
know
sure.
that the stud buds are bookmarking that. And so she can't just, oh, we say it's gonna at least a pink strand because I will tell you, like when I posted, and this is something that I love about WNBA Twitter and kind of the fandom surrounding it is people keep receipts. Okay, there
Hmm.
is a certain, and it's not bitterness, but a certain playful pettiness that comes in this space. So when I tweeted out that video of it was Cheryl Reeve making the comment about Emma Meesseman, she chose the wrong team or
Hmm.
whatever.
She made the wrong choice.
Immediately, I kid you not,
Mm.
immediately after the Lynx beat the Liberty on Sunday.
Hmm.
And I wasn't really tweeting during the all of a sudden my Twitter bing 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 open it up. And it's people just quote tweeting that
Right.
from however long ago it was of, oh, Cheryl's cold, all this. I'm like,
Hmm.
y'all really like kept
Yeah.
that in the
It
bookmarks.
had
And
been
as
two
soon as
weeks at
this
that
final
point. Yeah.
score, boom, quote tweet. Like that was hilarious to me.
You'll be like in
Um,
your second year on the North Carolina beat, and that will like keep. You'll still be getting notifications on that for like
I
2 years.
hope. I mean, there's certainly worse stuff I get on Twitter, man.
Anytime
So,
Emma Meesman does anything,
right.
someone will quote tweet Cheryl saying she made the wrong choice.
Yeah, it's one of the good facets of Twitter. I've also
Yeah,
gotten anytime I tweet about like Meeseman or any sort of foreign player, man, it's I gotta turn the Google Translate on my replies because it
right.
is anyways.
Right.
Oh
Well,
man.
that is the newest cover. Slam 258. Fee was on the cover of Slam 257. Available for order now at slamgoods.com, as well as an array of shirts available. Usually it's just the shirt with the cover of the magazine on
Oh
it. There are
no.
like 7 or 8 additional editions of the shirt available
Yeah.
for sale. I think Slam understood the assignment. They knew
Hmm.
anything related to the stud buds works. Um, we can talk about actual basketball.
Yeah,
Should we
let's do
talk?
it.
Yeah. So you mentioned the Sunday game against the Liberty. Maybe one of the more convincing wins of the
For
season,
sure.
in part because of the absence of Fee. Obviously, got to mention the absence of Stewie as well. But a game in which a lot seemed to be working really well for the Lynx. Another defensive masterclass from Alana Smith.
Hmm.
My most recent piece up at the Next is how can you not vote for this woman for defensive player of the year at this
Yep.
point? We can go through the numbers and stuff, but just and then now it's like 6 days off in between games and playing the Liberty again. Sometimes you don't want that much time off in after a convincing win, keep the momentum rolling. But I do think the Lynx could use some of the rest, especially with how manic the July schedule was. But is it a little too much to say this is one of the best victories of the season? Just kind of what did you think about that 83-71 win in New York on Sunday afternoon in front of a nationally televised audience?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was really, really convincing. And I think one of the things that's impressed me the most was again, I mean it kind of becomes a little bit trite, a little bit of a uh you know, player talk, coach speak, however you want to put it, point, but the resilience. I mean, truly, because you look at that first half, my understanding, I don't think any team got ahead of the other by more than, let's say, 6 points, 2 possessions. And then you look at the final score, 83-71, they just like busted it open in the third quarter
Mm-hmm.
there with that run. Again, a lot of it I think sparked by just Alana Smith and her just presence, her defense. Again, Dejanay Carrington with a incredible impact, finished with 15 points off the bench, 8 in that third quarter alone, alongside 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals. And keep in mind, again, that is a week after she joined the team.
Mm-hmm.
She has been with this team for a week. And so for her to step up and be such a critical force in that game and just look, it feels so natural. That is really, really impressive. And again, I know that, the Liberty are without Brianna Stewart, but for the Lynx, that is without Nafisa Collier,
Mm-hmm.
who is having an MVP caliber season both on the defensive and offensive end. And I think one of the things that was maybe well, not maybe, it was certainly a concern for the Lynx is in terms of what Fee is bringing to you night in, night out on like an offensive production standpoints. How are we going to replicate that?
Mhm.
Well, part of it is players like Kayla McBride stepping up on the offensive end, and that's facilitated by Dejanay Carrington taking on some of those defensive responsibilities. And this is something that Reva's talked about a few times at this point, but I think it's worth kind of chatting about a little bit here is what Dejanay Carrington brings on the defensive end is this ability to cross match. She can
Mhm.
guard 1 through 4, go up against the opposing team's best guard, switch them on to the point guard if the point guard's getting a little too into the bully ball. And for somebody like Kayla McBride, who's so used to, maybe having a more difficult defensive assignment on the other end, she can say to Nay, go chase this person around. And that gives McBride a little bit more freshness, some more legs under her in some of those you know, shots later in the game. And you saw that because, again, McBride, leading scorer, game high 18 points, and was still able to, you know, hit her threes, her longer jumpers at a high clip later in the game. So 4 3-pointers, 2 of those came in the second half. And I think part of it is her having this, she called Carrington a luxury.
Mhm.
Dejanay's ability just to kind of take some of the weight off of McBride on defense. Another person I think that we should definitely point out is Masha. I think that
Oh
she
yeah,
can kind of be
absolutely.
overlooked in a lot of this, but her length was straight up a problem in this game. And I think it might have been after this game. I think it was, but in one of these recent stretches, Reeve commented in a post-game press conference, like, I leave every single game, kind of wondering, or why didn't I play Masha more?
Right.
And I'm not criticizing her. That is literally like Reeve's own kind of reflection
Right.
on this. But
I'll throw that
um,
comment in here so people can hear her say in her own words. Like,
yeah,
yeah, that's exact. But you hit the nail right on the head there.
yeah. I mean, so that's somebody that, and again, sometimes I think even in, my game reports, I can acknowledge that. And I've written about Masha and did this like feature on her and Ola early in the season, but
Yep.
sometimes can leave her out of my own articles. And I think that her impact has just been really, really impressive. Just again, adding more length. That's really important when you have a taller, kind of bigger team like the Liberty. You're dealing with Meesman, you're dealing with JJ. But also just her ability to battle on the offensive boards, I think should not go understated. Just get some putbacks, um, pull down a board, go to the foul line. It's nothing really flashy, but just really, really solid. And you can definitely see in her the confidence of, again, this is a player like, McBride has repeated over and over again. One of the best players in Russia for years. And she played over there
Hmm.
with McBride, with JJ, with Miesman, all these people. So this is nothing new to her. I think she's just having a little more time and chance to show it off because of, unfortunately,
Yep.
Collier being sidelined.
She was the most outstanding player of like the Russian Premier League playoffs like a
Yeah.
year ago. So it's not like Reeve had to, mine, some deep well to find a player like Masha. She's been a pretty globally successful player for a long time. And I chatted with Reeve a little bit yesterday just because simple passes seemed impossible for the Liberty in this game.
Hmm.
Primary like Carrington was a menace out there as well, but also just the length in Masha and Lan. And it was I asked her just about like
Yeah.
using length effectively because length is kind of one of those buzzwords that us in the media get obsessed with when just like talking about players and defense and stuff. But
And wingspan and yeah.
just because you have length doesn't mean you're automatically going to lead the league in deflections or anything like that. But the Lynx kind of are, and they're the number one shot blocking team in the league, mostly because of Lan, but Masha too. and Fee of course. And Cheryl mentioned yesterday, like, but all we ever hear about is how small we are, and yet we're
Yeah.
leading the league in block shots.
And some
So
of that,
just
it's like about the length. Sorry, not to interrupt, but it's
you're
about the
good.
length, right?
Mhm.
And how you're using, but it's also just about defensive positioning.
Yeah,
And that's something that's, Reeve um players they talk a lot about. I don't think it's really written about or talked about a lot because just writing about like a shell defense and how players are moving on a string, like it's not particularly entertaining or sexy, but like you can, if you are a real like
it
film
should be.
geeker, okay, go back and just watch some clips of the Liberty just going up against this Lynx team. Like let's say go back and watch like the second half, like specifically though that like into third quarter, fourth quarter stretch, and just watch the Lynx and what they're doing on defense. Okay, just the ability to rotate the players just moving on a string. Like it's just really impressive, really solid, fundamental team defense. And so some of that again, like they get criticized a lot for, the lack of size and things like it doesn't matter how tall you are if you're out of position. Again, this this thing
Yeah,
about using length. So much of what they talk about with Lana Smith and just like what makes her um such a good defender is um her positioning, her basketball IQ. Reeve kind of shared after, I think it was that game on Sunday, just her memory of when the first time that Lan came in and just seeing how in sync she was with Fee and
hmm
oh wow, we're gonna have something here. And again, you're going up number one versus number two team in the league. And on Sunday, Liberty turned the ball over 18 times, leading to 22 points for the Lynx on the other end. I mean, that's the game right there.
right,
So again, I think really, really impressive. And I don't think it is too much of a hyperbole to say that this is one of their most impressive um wins, in my opinion, so far this season.
right. Well, and the addition of Harrington too, like they're
Yep.
also really good in transition offense. Like we weren't really talking about that much, but they were before acquiring Carrington, they're number two in the league in fast break points per game. And that's just something that Dijonay does. So a lot of these, steals and like pick six opportunities are now getting converted at an even better rate. So like there's a couple games where they'd force a lot of turnovers, but the points off turnovers wasn't huge. And that's not really much of a criticism. The team's 27-5. You can't really nitpick
Right.
and find reasons for either loss or games where they won by 12 and could have won by 20. So there's not a lot there, but it was one of the areas that maybe they were leaving on the table a little bit, and they're not anymore. K-Mac talked about Dijonay a bit yesterday on just because how many times Reeve has mentioned that Dijonay makes life easier for
Mm-hmm.
KMAC and BC. And it's not always like, oh, if you don't have to work harder on defense, you'll just be better on offense. But there is kind of like a shrewdness to that, where there are four more games in the season this year. The finals this season will be best of seven as opposed to best of five. Pretty
Mm-hmm.
much, I don't think it was just a Lynx problem, but kind of everyone looked gassed in the finals last year.
Yeah.
It's a long season. You need to think about having energy when winning time comes around in those spots. And if BC and KMAC, who are both fantastic perimeter defenders, but if they
Right.
don't have to expend as much energy and the perimeter defense has zero drop off at all, and maybe in some cases even better, like it's already, I talked about this on my Locked On Women's Basketball podcast. This is a pretty damn good mid-season acquisition in the annals of Lynx history. There haven't been a ton of in-season trades. Sylvia Fowles is one of them. So that's the top.
There you go.
That's the top
That's
top.
yeah,
Not
we're not
to
gonna put this one
we're
over
not going
that.
to
Yeah.
add, but even like you think of like across all like Minnesota sports teams, like this one, even though it's 3 games in a week, 3 wins, like the Timberwolves acquiring Mike Conley at the deadline was a great deal. There haven't been many other just mid-season trades that have worked out so well and so instantly. So that's just a product of, I think, the position Cheryl puts players in. to
Yep.
succeed. And like how Dijon has kind of said this, and everyone like you talking about Twitter reactions earlier, everyone's like, oh, she's throwing shade at Dallas, she's throwing shade at like this part, whatever. I'm like, I think it's just, oh, everyone here knows exactly what they're doing. It's the reason they're the number one team in the league. Like, I just need to do this, this, and this, and we're good.
Yeah,
And
I mean, I don't think it's throwing shade
no,
to
it's going from
talk
the
about
10th
a
or
winning
11th place
culture
team in
when
the
you go
league
from
to the first place team in the league.
that's
It's
just
kind of
facts.
natural. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. So, anyways, again, I think that's something that there are certainly times when players throw shade, but I think that's just an example of folks
Right.
online, especially again in a women's sports league, reading way too into just a player's comments and again associating this sort of like sass or shade angle with it. It's just a woman stating facts.
Right.
So, y'all need to get used to that.
I
That's
can't
my
stand when people say like when like they add sass. I'm like, when have you ever described a men's athlete as having sass?
exactly.
Like,
But
come on.
let me get off my soapbox though, because I could go
Oh,
on this for a while. But I will
you're always
say
welcome on your soapbox here,
that,
Shelby.
I mean, I appreciate that. But one thing I will say again on the Carrington notes, I will point to Lavelle E. Neal, one of our columnists at the Star Tribune,
Yeah.
included this Candace Parker quote in his recent column
Mm-hmm.
that I thought was really interesting. So this is again WNBA legend Candace Parker, and she made this comment on the Post Moves podcast, comparing basically this, Carrington acquisition to the DeAndre Hunter
Mm-hmm.
NBA trade deadline acquisition when he landed in Cleveland. And Parker said this. It's one of those defensive players that will allow everybody to play their normal position. Kayla McBride can go back to just focusing on shooting threes, and Dejanay will guard the best player on the other team. For me, for a team that's already in first place, which the Cavs were already in first place, to make
Mm-hmm.
this move, it allowed everybody to play their position. And I think Dejanay Carrington being in Minnesota is actually a ridiculous trade.
Yeah.
And yeah, I completely agree. And one thing too that I will hit on, we, talked a little bit about some of the bench players and Dejanay and Masha, but also again Jessica Shepard and Natisha Heidemann. Great games, great
Mm-hmm.
performances off the bench on Sunday. And again, a little bit of an obvious point, but it's worth stating that kind of production from your bench is going to make the difference when you get down the stretch when you're facing a team for not just 5 but 7 games. It's a lot harder to scout and game prep for a team that has 9 weapons versus 5 or 6. That's something specifically that I think Reeve talked about when they traded for Dejanay, is just her versatility and how hard that is to scout against with all the options she gives you, again, cross matching on defense. Um, how hard that is to match up against in, let's say, a 5 or 7 game series. She literally brought up like a 5 or 7 game series. You can tell she is literally
Yeah.
thinking about how is this going to help us in a WNBA finals scenario. That is where this team is heading. And another thing that I will just add on that I thought was a really interesting point. You can help me out with this because I forget exactly how she worded it, but Reeve had made a comment about, I think it was after this Liberty game on Sunday, the idea that she has a lot of players that maybe aren't like super flashy or like stars in their own right, but if you talk about like their like wins above replacements
Mm-hmm.
are just like insane. So again, some of y'all out here playing, checkers. Reeve is playing chess in terms
Right.
of just an ability to put together this team. The roster construction is phenomenal. So
Right.
again, I'm not trying to go
She's
too
playing
hard on
like
this, but it's
backgammon. She's playing something that's
like
completely out
no,
of
really,
your own head. Well, I mean,
really.
that's where like I mean, they've bolstered this department as well, but the Lynx adopted analytics, much earlier than a lot of other teams
Yes.
without like selling their soul for analytics. It's when you listen to Reeve talk about it, and some Paul Swanson, Madison Schiller, and others that they have on their staff, it's within like the realm of reality and logic, and going over as much data as possible to get like the clearest picture possible, and not going full money ball on it, but just using the numbers available to you to make the most educated decisions possible and to put people in the best position possible.
For
So
sure.
I
I think
think
I
that
actually, and I don't know how well the audio quality is going to work, but I have that quote from her. I can play it.
try it,
Okay,
go
but
for it.
I mean, of course, I think we have analytics, and if you look at things, depending on what you look at, I mean, I think a lot of times maybe the general public looks at scoring and says, well, if you score 25 points a game, you're one of the best players in the league. And we don't subscribe to that. We have a bunch of understated players that are highly productive analytically. I've got 3 players in the top 10 and wins above replacement player. Depends on what you value. That means you impact the game to win. And it's not just scoring. As we saw Land in the night school, we had 25, the last time we played. And so Land will give you that. Land will drive. Land will run the floor. Land will set screens for you. So from a metric standpoint, she is one of the best players in the league, one of the top 10 or 12 best players in the league. I recognize the general public isn't going to say that that's true. They're going to say Cheryl's lost her mind. But that's okay. That's why we have the team to be here.
there you go.
That sounds pretty. I love that you're just taking over as my producer as well on this show, Shelby.
Come on now. We
You're
got the otter pulled
the
up.
multi-talented Shelby Swanson. Just jack of all trades.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we do.
that makes perfect sense. People might say Cheryl's lost her mind, but I don't subscribe to that. And I think the proof is in the pudding there. We should talk more about Alana Smith and
Yes.
her defensive player of the year candidacy. Up until last night, as we are talking on the morning of Thursday, August 14th right now. So the Lynx have been off for a few days. The Aces had a game last night in which they beat the Liberty, which sent the Liberty down to number 3 in the standings. And in that, Asia had a good game, 17 and 16, just Asia Wilson things, but also 2 steals and 2 blocks. And those 4 stocks put her at 109 on the season. Up until that point, she was tied at 105 with Alana Smith. The next closest person in third place with 88 stocks is Nafisa Collier. And that just kind of shows how with the level of company that Lan has been in this year. She's the only player in the league that has a 6 steal game this season and also a 6 block game this season. She's had 4 or more stocks in a game 12 times. And I know we don't just get you can't really look up deflections and stuff at stats.WNBA.com. I would love to see the stats. We haven't been given. I've gotten to talk with Swanee and Maddie a little bit over the last couple of years, but I haven't been given access to the actual stats that they use as points of reference. But it would be fascinating to see. But anyway, in all the stuff available to us to educate ourselves as much as we can, Lan is doing stuff that no one else in the league is really doing on a night to night basis, and also has the best defensive rating in the league, 1 point better than Nafisa Collier. For a team that has the best defensive rating in the league, 97.9, followed by Atlanta, more than exactly 3 whole points behind them at 100.9. So Shelby, my question is, what are we doing? Why haven't we given the award to Lan yet? I think we're seeing a real shoe-in this category, and there might be some voter fatigue if Fee does come back and is continues to be the front runner for MVP, and maybe they give Fee Defensive Player of the Year again because she had it last year and is the MVP. How does the MVP not get? I think it's clearly the case is Lan, and I think say what you want about Asia, but that defense just gave up 1,000 points to the Lynx, so I don't see how you can make that argument when you bring head to head into it. Gabby Williams, great. The Storm are kind of in free fall a little bit though. There's obviously a lot of great defenders, but Lan for DPOI or bust. Are you with me or against me, Shelby?
No, I'm with you. And I mean, obviously, again, I'm biased as somebody that has, been covering the Lynx to a certain extent this summer, and so you're obviously going to, um, be a little slanted in terms of what is in front of you, and that's what you get to analyze on a night out basis. But I mean, I think you kind of laid out a lot of the numbers there. I don't know if I have too much more to add, but yeah, I mean, second most um I guess blocked shots through what, like Tuesday,
Yeah.
um behind also one of her Australian national teammates. And I think you might have mentioned it too, but again, the 105 stocks, again, that's steals plus blocks, right? That's tied with Asia. Okay.
No.
But I think when you look at impact on a team, then yeah, like
She's
I would
always
lean
always
land.
guarding the best post player on the
It's
opposition
true.
too.
It's
So
true.
just
And again, it's
if you're
kind
an
of one of
eye
those
test person, she's got that too.
100%. But I think it's one of those things, again, voter fatigue can certainly play a role, and there's also always a tendency to, you want to lean towards the stars of the game. Asia Wilson undoubtedly has more star power than Lan. I mean, who has their own shoes and, the
And
league
they're
MVPs
cool.
and that
They're
sort
good
of.
shoes. They're good
They
shoes.
are great shoes.
Yeah.
Again, love the advertisement for that, the Asia's on
We
top, top, top. I'm
of
like, hey,
course.
okay, it's catchy. But I mean, again, like talking about defense sometimes is not sexy, okay? Quite frankly. And some of it when you get into, like, you're talking about stocks, you're talking about defensive rating, you're talking about deflections and certain like
Rotations
numbers and
and
analytics
yeah.
rotation, right? Like, okay. That being said, though, again, when you talk about who is one of the best defensive players in the league and the most invaluable parts of the best team defense in the league, it's Atlanta. I mean, I think that's what it comes down to. Um, so yeah, I'm
Yeah.
with you. I can't really put it better than you just put
We
it,
just
honestly.
figured it out. Right
We
there.
we just
Yeah.
figured out. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, again,
Or
this
we
isn't
just
like
pointed it out, whatever.
there's really no like, hot takes that
Right.
I'm cooking up here. It's just okay. The Lynx had the best defense in the league.
Right. Well, I mentioned this
Who
on
was
my
the best
Monday
defender?
pod too.
There you go.
Yeah,
That's
it was
your defensive player of the year.
last year. I know Becky Hammond was just trying to ride for her player and wanted Asia to, sweep, get the end of season award sweeper best she could. But mentioned that like people were going down like rabbit holes to find an argument for anyone besides Asia for defensive player of the year. And it was just kind of like, Fee's defensive rating's better, her team's defensive rating is better.
Right.
Like all like I think, yeah, it's just like if you just look at
Ain't no rabbit
defensive
holes.
rebounds, yeah. So it wasn't really a rabbit hole.
Yeah. This
Um,
ain't Wonderland, man.
I think
I'm my feet are
it,
planted on solid
it
ground
is
here.
it is technically an individual award, and a team's defense can be atrocious without it being the fault of one great player who is playing spectacular defense.
Yeah, I mean the same
But
way MVP is like an
it's
individual award, but I'm not gonna the most valuable player to the
yeah, not not
league's
not
most
to
trash
slant the
team.
new
Like,
the new governor and chairman of the Minnesota Lynx, but the year Alex Rodriguez won AL MVP on the last place Texas Rangers is kind of forever the example people use is like we can't do that again. Like I understand like there's the knock or the argument against Fee for MVP this year is look at how this team's been playing without her. And they're, it's a 5-1 record overall. The defense has been fairly, at least from a points allowed standpoint, fairly good in Fee's absence. But you can't punish Fee for that, just for having a team of absolutely, just savage contributing players who are gonna, keep doing what they do in the star player's absence. I think
for
a lot
sure.
of that stems from, the culture that Fee has helped lead so far. So
100%. Yeah, I think and I don't know. I mean, I've seen this has been a little bit of a point of discourse, and okay, are these games missed going to hurt Fee's chances at MVP? Okay, who won, you know, conference player of the month, what, like two, three
right.
straight times? I mean, what are we talking
And I
about?
mean, the other
Like,
like everyone's kind of missed time this year too. So
Right.
it's, I get why people are bringing it up, but
Right.
you've got,
Which is also another thing that we really like need to talk about. I mean, people have been talking about it, but if this stretch right now doesn't completely raise alarm bells, red flags, etc., in terms of the WNBA scheduling, I don't know what will, because we're in the middle of Rivals Week presented by Ally or whatever it is.
it is
And
presented by Ally, which is
anyways,
very
um,
funny.
and okay, where are the rivals? Like it's Lynx Liberty, Fee's not on the court, Stewie's not on the court. I saw this like promotional ad for Washington Mystics versus Dallas Wings, and it was a picture of Paige Beckers and Georgia Amore. They're
What?
not playing.
Well,
I mean, like the Fever got,
right.
they're dealing out like hardship contracts because they got like 3 point guards down.
Right.
I mean, what are we talking about? This is one of the most, exciting times for the league and you're gonna have to edit the audio because I'm literally like yelling at this point, but
No,
this is one
this
of
is
the most
fine.
exciting times for the league in terms of the exposure. Okay, you want to put your stars in front of viewers, both in arenas, in seats, and also on their couches at home. Okay, and this stretch of injuries has been just outrageous. And I can't
Yeah.
help but think that part of it is just the strain on them in terms of ability to recover and this crazy travel that they're doing. And I'm not saying that you need to like reduce the number of games at all. You need to extend the footprint of the season is what you need to do because just this amount of games
Hmm.
that you're adding with just this
Yeah.
condensed
There
time
needs to be
frame.
more recovery time.
Yes,
Mhm.
100%. And like
Yeah.
whatever players need in terms of like, the facilities and access to those sort of things. It was really interesting talking to uh Dejanay Carrington about just what were her impressions of walking into the Lynx practice facility. And she said, yeah, I mean, we had a breakfast station and just a place just dedicated to ourselves. And, the PT and everything is, I mean, obviously they're at the like Mayo Clinic, the PT's right here.
Right. And
That
that
should be the standard.
it makes a difference. Right.
And it 100% does. So again, like when, even the Lynx and I mean, obviously somebody like Collier, I mean, she's had what like the shoulder. I mean, she has been playing so beat up this season because she carries so much of, the weight of the team. She's gonna drive and she's gonna get beat. Like I get all that.
Hmm.
But if the Lynx with all their great facilities and everything are, struggling from these injuries, I can't even imagine what these other teams are going through with just limited facilities and access to things that they have. And anyways. So
Yeah.
I said I wouldn't get back on my soapbox, but back on the
No,
soapbox,
you're always welcome on the
thank
soapbox.
you.
I'm
Thank you.
fighting the urge to make a joke on Rivals Week without no fee, no Stewie. Rivals Week is unrivaled,
Oh,
unraveled. There's something there.
wait,
I
actually,
don't
you know
want to
what?
make.
Cook some more on that, but there's still
No, I
some
don't need
crumbs
to
on
cook.
there's still some
Uh,
crumbs on the plate, but you did eat.
Thank you.
But
I appreciate that, twin. Uh,
Quinn, believe it.
yeah, I mean, it'd be funny if it wasn't such a serious issue as my colleague
Yeah,
at
sorry, but
the next, Lucas Seehofer, who is on the Lynx beat prior to me joining the beat. He's still, he's the full on doctor. Uh, did his PhD dissertation on the study of injuries within the WNBA, and
hmm.
they're going to lose more games due to injury than ever. And that's not just because there are more games on the plate. It's they're going to like the rate of percentage of games they're missing due to injury will be the highest. That's increased year over year for 3 years. Especially lower body injuries is out of control, and the W's just not really acknowledging it. And of course,
Hmm.
injuries are part of the game to an extent, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be putting as much resource as possible into care and treatment, but also prevention. And as like Dejanay mentioned, was like, oh look, like there's this like a clinic right here that we can use. It's not like the Lynx have been totally uninjured over the years, but in terms of like total games lost, they're towards the bottom of that. And part of that
Yeah.
is like they have the great, Chuck Barta in as
Yeah.
their head athletic trainer, as there hasn't been really any turnover in that space, and they've invested in that space for ever. And that makes
100%.
a difference. They're not just
Right.
getting lucky.
I mean, it would be naive, and like what I'm proposing is by no means like every single WNBA team has to have their in-house Mayo Clinic. That's ridiculous. That's not what I'm saying. But just the concept of a player being wowed by
Mm-hmm.
their own space to practice, PT and like recovery spaces, like being built in, and then a breakfast bar.
Right. I'm also of the
What are we
belief,
talking about?
and I've a little bit of experience in putting together schedules and juggling that and understanding the difficulty that goes with that. Not at the professional level, but it is hard. Putting a
Yeah,
professional sports league schedule together is hard. A lot of leagues have had, third party firms who specialize in like logistics and organization do it in the past. I think it's possible to have this number of games with this number of teams and this number of time without back-to-backs. I don't think back-to-back should be a thing. And
I
now
agree.
I'm with you on the soapbox, and we're trying to
Yeah,
solve
we're
all of
both
the
on the
world's issues
soapbox.
here, Shelby. But like, why do we have back-to-backs? Like it's 44 games from mid-May to mid-September, and well, like we had the Lynx playing on noon Mountain Time one Wednesday, and then
Yeah, in
noon
Phoenix and
Pacific
then
time
noon the next day in LA.
the next day. Like, and even with like camp days should like help the schedule in that regard, because you have weekday daytime slots to work with, whereas in a lot of other leagues won't put games in those slots in
Right.
midseason. So I don't know, but yeah, I think we just figured that out. We should, Kathy, we're sitting right here. We're
Hey,
literally right here. Put
Kathy,
us
we're
on the
right here.
payroll. We'll figure this out
Kathy,
for you.
Kathy hit us up.
We'll get rid of that headache for you, Kathy. We can do it.
Yeah, I will say though, and probably one of the last points I'll make here because I do have to head out for my intern farewell lunch, but
There you go. Where are you guys
no,
going?
oh, I don't we maybe hen
Uh,
house.
okay, they're all
We'll
right.
see.
They're
We'll
they're
see.
treating you well. They're treating you well there.
Yeah, yeah, oh, trust. But
All right.
no, I think that it's a little bit of a difficult topic too, because I think some players are perhaps more outspoken. Certainly Fee, obviously, with just her role in terms of like union leadership,
Mhm.
but players aren't looking for and don't want to give any excuses, right? So you ask them about, are you beat up? Are you battered? First of all, I'm kind of um like if I'm a player, I don't really want to disclose too much on that because again, there's the
Yeah.
concern of like giving opponents an edge. And then also in terms of scheduling, oh, it's above my pay grade or oh, I don't want to focus on what I can't control, right?
Hmm.
There's just kind of those mantras and phrases repeated. So I think because of that, and maybe there's other reasons, but this is just my read on it. This hasn't really been discussed like at the level it could be. Like I remember it was one of the I think it was coming off of that back to back. And again, I could be mistaken because was that back to back the same week that we were in Chicago that weekend? And then they played on
It
Saturday.
was it was the week before.
Really?
Yeah, so it was leading up to that.
Okay.
So yeah, that was that Chicago road trip um was sort of towards the end, on the later side of the 11 games and 20-day stretch.
Hmm. Yeah. Wait, no, I have it here. Yeah. Okay. So sorry, they played two back to backs that week.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they played two back-to-backs that week. It was LA on Thursday, and then Saturday is the first Chicago Sky game.
Mm-hmm.
They lose, and we're talking to because you remember that we're talking to McBride and we're talking to Collier, and they
Yep.
both got like ice bags on their knees. I mean, they are walking in that post-game press conference, lumbering in, and try and ask them if they're tired, and they're not
Can't
even
can't
acknowledging.
say it. Yeah.
But I mean, use your eyes, man.
Right.
Like, look at them.
I was tired. We sit down during the games and I was tired. Just
No, I remember, yeah, because you
following.
flew in that morning. You're like,
I was genuinely tired that day. I had a very, very early flight that day. But still
You gotta sit at our laptop stand and type.
different kind of tired. I'll say, don't come at me, Lynx fans. Shelby, again, you have been a joy and a pleasure to work with on this beat. Just real quick, because I know you got to go celebrate, but any kind of favorite moments from your time here, working with the Star Tribune and just being here in Minnesota with all of us.
Man, I mean, part of it, again, I think I said this the last time I was on, but truly just exploring all the lakes. I've spent like multiple nights at various lakes this week, just kind of
There you go.
watching the sunset, reflecting. I really enjoyed just kind of the variety of experiences. I got to see some curling. Okay. I got to
Nice.
do Vikings training camp, links. I'm talking to new Timberwolves players they just drafted. Got to see Chet, feels like 2 or 3 times, that week he was back. So just really a variety of experiences, meeting all the great people in Minneapolis. I feel like I gotta, hey, not to get emotional, but we got a little family here, right? So yeah, no, I mean it's truly been a great time, and I think opportunities like this and just being able to cover the Lynx has been a really nice sort of reprieve. You don't get too many opportunities just in a professional sports space to be surrounded by so many, badass women, man. People, they're moms and they're balling out and they're, you know, doing their live streams and union negotiations and all this stuff. And it's just really empowering, really, reaffirming too, is just like a queer woman to kind of be in that space. So that's been really nice. And also, just getting the reps and the experience prepares me for this next stop in North Carolina. So if anyone wants to follow along, I'll go ahead and do the plug. But Raleigh News and Observer, I'll be covering UNC athletics. And then if you want to follow me on Twitter, it is Shelby M. Swanson. So I'll be putting a lot of my stuff up there.
For sure. Well, Shelby, thank you so much for just the energy you've brought to the beat. You've been very fun to work with, asking great questions, writing great stories. You are mature and wise and talented beyond your years.
Wow.
And we are very excited to follow you. I will subscribe to the Raleigh News and Observer.
Oh my gosh, I converted a subscriber. I don't even
exactly. You got at least one. You got at least one. So you can go in on day one, with some flexes.
Guys, if anybody, and I'm shameless about this, if anybody subscribes to follow my work, we got one person, which is already incredible. Please email my editor and be like, I subscribed to read Shelby.
Great hire. Great hire.
Yeah, guys, let's run it up. Okay.
If you don't treat her well, we're bringing her back. So
I'm so shameless with it, but no, that's so love, Terry. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
For sure. Congrats. And thank you again. And I will see you later today.
Yes, sir. Peace.
Later. Thank you once again to Shelby for joining me. Please be sure to follow Shelby, follow her work, read her articles at Shelby M. Swanson across social media channels, even though she won't be on the Lynx beat anymore. We'll get her back. She's going to be on Andrew's podcast to recap the Lynx Liberty game tomorrow. We'll make her do Lynx stuff, even though it's not part of her job description anymore. She can't get rid of us. And I know a lot of you were big fans of her work. She did a phenomenal job covering the team this summer for the Strip. Shout out to Pentz Homes. Shout out to Mitchell Hansen and the Hitting the Hardwood Podcast Network. And especially shout out to you, Lynx fans, for tuning in to Lynx Happy Hour, where Lynx basketball is always on special. I will see you all at the arena tomorrow, Saturday, against those defending champion New York Liberty. It's going to be a good one. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for liking, subscribing, rating, reviewing. 5-star reviews only. I appreciate it. It helps us grow the show a lot. See y'all at the arena for more action of the best team in the WNBA. 6 or 6-ish, 7-ish, whatever it is, wins away from the 1 seed. Minnesota Lynx looking to take another step towards locking up that 1 seed Saturday. Have a great weekend, everybody. Peace.